Star Wars Battlefront 2 continues to live on and is being played by thousands and thousands of both new and veteran players every single day. However, all these years later, there are a heap of things that players don't like about Battlefront 2. Today I'm going to go over a bunch of them, and if there's something I don't mention in this video that you don't like about the game or absolutely hate, please let me know in the comments. Hopefully some of this stuff will be fixed if we ever get Battlefront 3. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Now, all of these are taken from a tweet I put out last week where I asked you guys what's one thing you don't like about Battlefront 2 that you would change. So everything on this list is a community suggestion made by you guys, the players. Only one person per vehicle. This is my pet peeve about Battlefront 2, the fact you can only have one person in each vehicle, and there's no vehicle in the game that has more than one seat. This I find especially frustrating considering the original Battlefronts had multi-seat vehicles, as do the Battlefield games. They're so well known for it, and DICE, the same studio that makes the Battlefield games, also made Battlefront 2. So why aren't they in this game? What I find also frustrating about this is the fact that some of the vehicles in the game are clearly meant to be controlled by more than one person. For example, the ATT has a giant cannon on top, but also the lasers down below. Why not let two people control each thing individually? Instead, you as the sole pilot of this thing need to switch seats and can only control one or the other. And when in the canon of some vehicles, also including the AAT, are forced to completely surrender control over the vehicle's movement. And this to me seems like a simple fix. Why not let two players control the vehicle at once? And this vehicle issue also ties into number 2, vehicles not spawning on the map and exploding as soon as you get out. Get out! Oh! In Battlefront 2, the only way to get in a vehicle that's not the ATT is through the spawn screen. Once you have enough battle points, you can select your vehicle and then will spawn as them on the map. However, in previous Battlefronts, as well as in the Battlefield games, vehicles spawn on the map and you can go get in them, drive them somewhere, and then get out. But Battlefront 2 also, for some reason, doesn't really allow you to get out of vehicles. I mean, you can get out, but the vehicle will, for some reason, explode. As far as I know, the ATT is the only exception to this in the game, and is playable only on Geonosis and Felucia. I'm not sure why the developers made the decision to go down this route, but in my opinion, it makes the game feel much less like a sandbox and just a bit more rigid, and doesn't really capture the same magic created by some of the vehicle gameplay you could have in the original Battlefronts and also in the Battlefield franchise. No way of saving loadouts. This is one I know a lot of players find particularly frustrating when wanting to stay playing as the same class, but perhaps with different abilities. Battlefront 2, of course, has the star card system, where you equip different abilities to each class, some of which are passive and some of which are weapon and equipment changes. But the game doesn't give you any way of saving these loadouts. So for example, if you're playing as the heavy and for a few spawns want your class to be focused on vehicle damage, you have to go into the menu to swap individual star cards to modify the class versus just selecting a pre-saved class that focuses on taking down vehicles. And each class has quite a number of star cards. For more casual players, this can be quite overwhelming, and you might find yourself going through and reading individual descriptions of what each star card does, versus just selecting a pre-saved loadout. Hopefully another thing that they might change for Battlefront 3. The funny thing about this is that EA's Battlefront 1 had this. Even though the star card system in that game worked a little differently, the game did allow you to save your loadout and then swap it mid-match. You could also choose your partner's loadout. So hopefully this is something they might bring back for Battlefront 3. The inability to land starfighters. One of the best things about the original Battlefront 1 and 2 was the fact you could get in a starfighter, fly somewhere else, and land. For example, during the space battles, you could fly from the hangar of your capital ship to the hangar of the enemy capital ship and actually land. But in 2017's Battlefront 2, there's no way of actually landing your starfighter, even on the ground maps. And this is something even the Star Wars Fortnite event had. Once again, another example of how the vehicles in this game can feel a little bit rigid and don't necessarily give you the freedom to do whatever you want. You can jump out of starfighters, but that will also cause them to explode. Menu camping. Now this is a result of Battlefront 2's battle point system, where each round you collect points to then unlock a vehicle, a reinforcement, or a hero in the match. But unfortunately, this causes a lot of players to just camp in the menu, to collect enough battle points during the match, and then wait in the menu until the hero they want becomes available. And this is something I've also done because I feel like if you want to play as a certain hero, you don't really have a choice, because you know there's other people waiting in the menu trying to get the heroes, and it's basically a race race to see whoever gets there first. This can be frustrating and affect the outcome of the game. If you get too many people waiting in the menu, obviously people aren't actually playing the game, you end up losing objectives, and it can turn the tide of a battle. The way I think this could be solved is to go on something of a waiting list for a hero, to collect enough battle points, select the hero on your next spawn, but then just spawn as a regular class, and when the hero becomes available, the game could prompt you, similar to how it worked in the original Battlefront 2. You then have the option while you're already spawned to respawn as the hero. I wonder how much time I've spent waiting for heroes in the menus. To think that time could have been better spent.
Stop it.
Cheaters, especially on PC. Battlefront 2 has been plagued with waves of cheating, especially on PC over the past few years. And what's been happening recently is hackers basically break the game for certain players and make the match you're in unplayable, forcing you to leave and then try and rejoin. As far as I know, this has mostly affected Galactic Assault and Supremacy modes, and it's something that a lot of players find really frustrating considering Battlefront 2 doesn't really have an anti-cheat system. The problem with introducing an anti-cheat system this late into the game is that it would virtually destroy the modding community. From what I've heard, EA are actively working on this and are trying to stop hackers from ruining the game. And I know all multiplayer games have this issue, but it's just a shame that some people want to spoil it for everyone.
What am I in right now?
Challenging progression for new players. Battlefront 2 is essentially, to a degree, play to win, in that the longer you spend playing, the more powerful abilities you unlock. And I've seen a lot of new players complaining about the fact that so many veterans just are more powerful than they are, because it can take forever to unlock the purple star cards, which of course are more effective than just using the grey ones. Progression in Battlefront 2 is definitely a grind, and I think a lot of people wish that star cards didn't actually impact gameplay in the way that they do. I think a lot of people don't mind the idea of having to play a lot to unlock new abilities, but when you use a progression system to reward players with things like health and damage bonuses, I think it becomes a problem. It would be great if the playing field was just level and unlocks gave you new abilities instead, such as unlocking new weapons, weapon attachments, scopes, different styles of grenades, but the fact that you have to progress to unlock a more powerful version of the same grenade that the grey level star card player is using, I think poses a problem, and is why a lot of new players probably find the game quite frustrating at times. Clunky hero combat. Now this one I think divides most Battlefront 2 players. Some players absolutely love the hero combat system in Battlefront 2, whereas others really don't like it at all. Some people find the hero lightsaber gameplay really clunky, the mechanics a bit janky, whereas others really like the nuances of the dash and parry system. Now I think it's cool that each hero has unique abilities specific to that hero, but the lightsaber combat system in Battlefront 2 itself I think is a bit of an acquired taste, especially if you're playing a mode like heroes vs villains and you come up against someone who is more experienced than you. The skill gap here I think is quite large, and some people would prefer there was more fluidity to the lightsaber combat, that perhaps it wasn't so based around the dashing and parries. I'm not sure if they should make it feel more like Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, or the old Jedi Knight games, but perhaps if they were to rework heroes sometime in the future or for a new Battlefront, they could potentially make a system that's less divisive. No crossplay. Battlefront 2 I think was created in the era just before crossplay became the norm, became the industry standard for multiplayer shooters, which is part of why I think it never received a crossplay update. And in times over the past few years when Battlefront 2 hasn't been as popular, you would think that crossplay would have saved the game, would have kept the player base healthier, and would have made it much easier to find games across all game modes. I don't think Battlefront 2 is ever going to get crossplay, but if Battlefront 3 ever does become a reality, I think it definitely needs crossplay. This is one of the most requested features I see for Battlefront 2, something that I know has frustrated so many players for so long, and even just the ability to play with friends who potentially have the game on a different platform, are playing on Xbox while you're on PlayStation or PC.
Let me in. Let me in.
Supremacy matches going for too long. Now, as much as I love playing Supremacy, sometimes it certainly does feel like these matches go on forever. I've seen Reddit posts talking about how their Supremacy match just went for 3 hours. 3 hours on the same map. And as much as that could feel like an epic battle, at the end of the day, parts of it will definitely end up feeling repetitive and stale. Supremacy is essentially a tug of war over the command post between two teams. Whoever gets to 100% then gets to fly up to the enemy's capital ship and try take down the 3 objectives inside. But if they fail that, then you go straight back down to the map and replay the ground section, and once again race to get to 100%. A normal match of Supremacy, in my experience, usually goes for 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes over an hour. To play one game mode, that does seem like a lot of time, especially if you're maybe just jumping in for a more casual session. So how could this be changed? How could this be fixed? Maybe on the ground section, the score meter could go faster. And I think the reason this frustrates a lot of players is because sometimes you only get to play on 1 or 2 maps per session. There might be Supremacy maps you literally haven't played in months because you're not up to them in the map rotation when you join a game. There's definitely Supremacy maps I think I haven't played in months, potentially years. I don't even remember what they are. It was so long ago.
It's been 84 years.
And number 11's a bonus. So many people replied to my tweet with this: the fact Battlefront 2's live service and support ended. No one wanted to see the end of Battlefront 2. The game felt like it had had a comeback and was thriving towards the later half of 2019 and 2020, and then out of nowhere, it was cancelled. Further updates and development were shelved, and the game is basically what it was in 2020. What's even more frustrating about this is that I know a lot of the developers who worked on Battlefront 2 have expressed that they wanted to continue development, that it wasn't up to them, that it wasn't their decision, and they would have happily carried this game into the future with new updates, new maps, new heroes, new weapons, new everything. Which is why now we need to keep playing Battlefront 2 and we need to keep talking about Battlefront 3 so that hopefully they do end up making it. What's one thing you hate about Battlefront 2? Let me know in the comments. What's one thing you want to see in Battlefront 3? Also let me know. And if you want to see some really cool details outside the map in Battlefront 2, then watch this video here. Also come follow me on Instagram, Twitter, join my Discord and TikTok. More Battlefront, more Star Wars, more everything, and thanks for watching this. Always remember,
stay bombastic.